It's a little bit harder, isn't it? It takes a little bit longer to do the things. I told you it would. Last week is just practice, but we're really getting to some interesting things today. So it is science time. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to get your science book that you picked up. Okay. Make sure you have it and turn to page 1. And we're going to read through this lesson together. And then at the end, you'll have some activities to do in your book. And then you'll have one thing to turn into me on our vocabulary words from this lesson. Okay, so Unit 1 is about studying science. And the big idea is scientists answer questions about the world around us by carrying out careful investigations. All right, some of you may be still getting your science book. That's okay. I wonder why. Why is the work of a scientist doing field research like the work of a scientist doing research in a laboratory? Field work is like in the ocean studying, or out on a ship studying, or somewhere outside of a classroom studying, or out of a lab studying. So how are they alike and how are they different? If you still haven't got your science book, you might want to pause the video until you get it. Make sure you're on page 1. We're about to turn to page 2. And we see we're doing lesson 1 today. And our topic today that we're asking is, what do scientists do? What do scientists do? Well, this answers our question up here. Why are scientists in a lab like scientists outside the lab? All scientists ask questions, answer them with investigations, and communicate their results to other scientists. In this unit, you'll explore the big idea, the essential questions, and the investigations on the inquiry flip chart. Let's turn the page. So our essential question is, what do scientists do? Find the answer to the following question in the lesson and record it here. Biologists make observations about living things. What are some observations you can make about lizards? Well, here's a lizard. Let's just make some observations. We're just looking at him and we're just seeing some things that we know for sure about him. I can say some lizards are green. That lizard is green, isn't he? Okay, what else do you see about him? It looks to me like lizards have rough skin. It doesn't look real smooth, does he? So maybe lizards have some kind of rough skin. They have a tail. This lizard has yellow eyes, do you think, or orange eyes? Do you think all lizards have orange eyes? I don't know. We could test it. We could look at different pictures of lizards. But we can look at something and we can make observations about it. What do you observe about the lizard? We'll get to our vocabulary later, but the main idea is this. In this lesson, you'll read about how scientists do their work. Active readers look for main ideas before they read to give their reading a purpose. Often the headings in a lesson state its main idea. Like this is our heading up here. So our main idea is, what do scientists do? That's what we're going to be learning about. Preview the headings in this lesson to give your reading a purpose. Page 4. So this page, our heading is the role of scientists. That's the main idea here on this page, isn't it? It's career day for Mr. Green's 4th grade class. Mr. Green invited a scientist named Dr. Sims to talk to the class. The students are ready and they have many questions to ask. And this little boy is asking, what do scientists do? What's a question you would ask a scientist? You can write it in your book if you want to. What would you ask a scientist? There's lots of questions we could ask. Anything that really makes you wonder about why things are the way they are? It's about, the leaves are about to start changing colors, aren't they? Maybe we could ask, why do leaves change colors? A scientist can answer that question for us. Let's go page 5. Thank you for inviting me to your school. My name is Dr. Sims, and I am a scientist. A scientist asks questions about the natural world. There are many kinds of scientists and many questions to ask. Science is the study of the natural world. Earth scientists study things like rocks, weather, and the planets. We'll be learning about those things. Physical scientists study matter and energy. We'll be learning about that. Life scientists like me, the person in the classroom was saying, study living things. I'm a wildlife biologist, which means I study animals in the wild. I think my favorite kind of science is life science. Scientists work alone and in teams. Sometimes I travel alone on long hikes to watch animals. At other times, I ask other biologists to go with me. I share ideas with other scientists every day. Science is hard work, but fun too. I like being outdoors. Discovering something new is exciting. The best part for me is helping animals. The best way to explain what a scientist does is to show you. So, you don't have to write anything, but let's talk about this. For each area of science, write a question a scientist might ask. Well, earth sciences study rocks, weather, and planets. Well, we could ask a question about weather, like what causes thunderstorms? How about life science? It studies living things. What could we ask a life science? Why do we sneeze? That has to do with our life, doesn't it? Physical science. Physical science is matter and energy. We might ask, how does electricity work? These kids are asking, is it fun to be a scientist? Do you work by yourself? All right, let's go to page 6. Making observations and asking questions. I hope you remember some of this from our scientific method lessons last week that you did. Dr. Sims looks around the classroom. She observes everything for a few moments, and then she asks questions about what she sees. How does that plant produce offspring or make new plants? Does the lizard's skin ever change colors? Does the goldfish spend more time near the top of the tank or at the bottom of the tank? Those are good questions that scientists might ask. How would we find the answer? We'd have to make observations, wouldn't we? Okay. What can we observe about this classroom here? What are 5 things we could observe? Well, there are plants. There's a magnifying glass. I can observe that it looks like there's a lizard right here. It's kind of hard to see, but I believe there's a lizard there. There's watering. They must water their plants. So there's lots of things we can observe. We have to look and observe and see what we can see. Scientists make observations about the world around them. An observation is information collected by using the 5 senses. Scientists ask questions about their observations. Notice that Dr. Sims' questions are about the living things in the classroom. That's because she's a wildlife biologist. Your questions might be a bit different if you observe different things than she did. Dr. Sims asked, how would you find an answer to my question about the goldfish? She and the students talk about watching the fish. Someone suggests writing observations in a notebook. Someone else says a stopwatch can help. Dr. Sims says, I could do all these things in an investigation. Scientists conduct an investigation to answer questions. The steps of an investigation may include asking questions, making observations, reading or talking to experts, drawing conclusions, and sharing what you learn. I'm going to have you do a little fun investigation on your own in just a few minutes and making some observations. Let's move on. So let's go back and just look at these topics one time. I'm jumping ahead. I can't go back in this book. Oh yeah, I can. So make observations, ask questions, and experiments, the next one. Dr. Sims is very excited to talk about investigations. She says, describing what you see is one kind of investigation. Other investigations include doing an experiment. Wow. Let's see what happens. What else it says here. A fair test. An experiment is a fair test. It can show that one thing causes another thing to happen. In each test, you change only one factor or variable. To be fair and accurate, you conduct the experiment multiple times. To test something else, you must start a new experiment. Being creative and working in teams can help scientists conduct experiments. Carlos is conducting an experiment. He gives the lizard fruits and crickets to see which will be eaten. The food is the only variable that has changed, so he's trying to decide if the lizard likes fruit or crickets better to eat. Each day, the lizard gets 2 different types of food at the same time and in the same amounts. So he's giving fruit and, I can't see it there. There we go. Fruit and crickets, and he's seeing which one Mr. Lizard's going to eat every day. He's going to observe in this experiment. So he's experimenting to see which one they like better, and he'll observe. And if that lizard eats the crickets every day, then he can make a conclusion that the lizard likes crickets better than fruit. Let's move on. Page 9. And here's the scientific methods. We talked about them in your videos last week for science. Scientific investigations use scientific methods. Scientific methods may include the following activities: making observations, ask a question, form a hypothesis, plan and conduct an experiment, record and analyze results, draw conclusions, and communicate results. Sometimes these steps are done in this order, at other times there's not. A hypothesis is an idea or an explanation that can be tested with an investigation. Dr. Sims gives the students an example from their classroom. She says, "I hypothesize that this lizard eats more insects than fruit." So she's going to guess that it's going to eat more insects. Okay, let's go on and to the next page. Other kinds of investigations. Dr. Sims smiles. She says, "I hope this doesn't confuse anyone, but doing an experiment isn't always possible." Many science questions cannot be answered by doing an experiment. Here's one question. What kind of lizard have I found? This question can be answered by using an identification guide. Here's another question. What causes the sun to rise and set? This question can be answered by making and using a model of the earth and the sun. Here's another. At what time of the year does a state get the most rain? This question can be answered by looking for patterns through many years of rainfall records. Here's another. How did people who lived 100 years ago describe Mars? This question can be answered with research. Research includes reading what others have written and asking experts. What's the surface of Mars like? This question is hard to answer with an experiment. We can't go to Mars and test the soil, can we? NASA scientists sent robot spacecraft to Mars. Cameras on these spacecraft take pictures of the planet for scientists to observe. Using an identification guide, okay, so we're going to see which lizard is which. So here's 3 lizards. Here's the identification guide, and we'll try to match them. Which one do you think is the Texas horned lizard? It's kind of brownish. Its body is wider and flatter than other lizards. I think I see it, don't you? Its tail is straight and shorter than the body. The spines, it has several short horns on its head, spiny scales on the sides of its body. I think that's the Texas horned lizard, don't you? Okay. The next one is the common chameleon. The colors are green and yellow and gray or brown. I don't know. That could be either one. The eyes are big and bulge out from the side of the head. Well, it looks like both of them have eyes on the side of their head. The body is tall and flat, a ridge of scales along the backbone. Oh, that one has some scales, it looks like. The tail curls for grasping branches. Yeah, look at this tail grasping. So there's the chameleon. Common iguana, then, is this guy. Colors are green, gray, brown, blue, lavender, or black. It has spines along the center of the back and tail. I don't see them as much as I can see this guy's. The body is a large flap of skin underneath the chin. Oh, that would give it away, wouldn't it? The iguana. So that's an identification guide. You try to figure out which is which by looking at the description. And then scientists share their results as evidence. Dr. Sims says, "Tell me something you know." You tell her it's going to be stormy tomorrow. And she says, "How do you know?" When scientists explain how things work, they must give evidence. Evidence is data gathered during an investigation. Evidence might support your hypothesis, or it might not. For example, think about the class with their lizard. The students tell Dr. Sims a hypothesis. Lizards eat more insects than fruit. They carry out an experiment, putting tiny crickets and fruit in the lizard's tank. After 2 hours, they observe how much food is left and then repeat the experiment each day for a week. The students tell Dr. Sims that their lizard ate more crickets than fruit. She says, "What is your evidence?" The students share their recorded results. They report the lizard ate 13 crickets and no fruit. So that's evidence. If you did an experiment and you saw every day that that lizard was eating crickets, but he wasn't eating fruit, then you can have your result. You know your results are that he likes the crickets better than the fruit because he didn't eat any fruit. Okay. Now, here's a science notebook. I don't want you to look at this part, but let's just look at these two parts right here. A conclusion is an explanation that's based on evidence. So we're going to look at these two evidences. This one doesn't match. This talks about a lizard and this talks about a paper airplane. So we're not going to worry about this one, but look at these. We used thermometers and found that when the air temperature changed by 5 degrees, a chameleon's skin color changed. Evidence. We measured the temperature at the same time each morning and afternoon for 1 month. Each day, the air temperature was higher in the afternoon than in the morning. Okay, so we know that if a temperature changes by 5 degrees, a chameleon's skin color changed. So what conclusion could we make from that? Could we say the temperature of the air affects a chameleon's skin color? Yes, we could, because they have evidence of that. They changed the temperature by 5 degrees and the chameleon's skin color changed. So we can make that conclusion. We measured the temperature at the same time each morning and afternoon for 1 month. Each day, the air temperature was higher in the afternoon than in the morning. What conclusion can we make? Well, if a chameleon's skin color changes with temperature, then if there's different temperatures in the morning and afternoon, do you think the color of the chameleon would be the same in the morning and afternoon? No, I think we can conclude that a chameleon would be a different color in the morning than it is in the afternoon because the air temperature has changed. All right, let's go back to this slide. I'm going to let you do a little experiment, and we'll just let you do this one. So if you want to try this, and we'll talk about it in the Google Meet tomorrow, you can share your evidence that you tried at home. So here's the thing. I want you to make a paper airplane, but I want you to make 3 different types. I want you to make one paper airplane that has very wide wings. Just try it. Just try to build a model. Try to build one that has maybe medium wings and one that has small wings. And I want you to fly each one of those 5 times. And I want you to see from your experiment, does an airplane with very wide wings or very small wings fly farther? How are you going to do that? Well, you're going to have to build the 3 and you're going to throw them and measure how far they fly each time. So I want to know in our Google Meet tomorrow, does a paper airplane with wide wings or skinny wings or narrow wings fly farther? There's you an experiment you can try to talk about in our Google Meet tomorrow. Okay, in your book on page 14, I want you to fill in these blanks. Can I give you a clue? The answers are down here, and I don't care if you look at them. I just want you to read through this about scientists. I'm going to sneeze. Oh, no. Think. Okay. There it came. Sorry. Excuse me. I'm allergic to that hamster, maybe. So anyway, I want you to fill in these blanks in your book. You can't turn that in, but I do want you to do it for practice. And then on the next page, here's a word play. Now, the answers aren't on this one, so you'll have to go back, use your glossary in the back of the book, or use the lesson. And I want you to put these words in the word search or the crossword, okay? So there are 7 of them, and there's 7 words down here. Now, here's the deal. Make sure you put them in the right place here. Once you've done that, go to today's assignment, and you've got to match the definition with the correct word. And you can use this, if you've got it done correctly, you can use this to do today's assignment and get an easy 100. So do these 2 pages in your book and then go to the assignment. And if you want to try the paper plane experiment, I'm anxious to find out your evidence and your conclusions. See you later.